ARE Podcast, episode number 68.
Welcome to the ARE Podcast. Where it's all about encouraging and inspiring you today so you can fulfill your dream of becoming a licensed architect tomorrow. And now your host, David Doucette.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the ARE Podcast, joined once again by my co-host, Eric Corey Freed. Eric, how are you?
Hi, everybody. I'm great.
And today we're going to talk about 9 tips to get your confidence back. And this is a great topic because some of you might be in a slump after a fail or a few fails in a row, or just stepping away from this the process for a while and trying to figure out how to get back in it. So here we have 9 tips to get your confidence back, and let's jump into it with tip number 1. Eric, what do we have?
First tip is to be kind to yourself. This test is hard. There's 6 of them, and they have a pass rate of about 54%. Theoretically, you should expect to fail 3 of them, but what really happens is candidates go in, and as soon as they experience one fail, and it's usually their first test, they immediately shut down, they internalize it, they feel bad about themselves, they go through that whole spiral of insecurity and doubt and fear, and they end up taking a year and a half or 2 years off just from one fail. So go easy on yourself, be kind to yourself. Rome wasn't built overnight. Certainly passing these tests is not going to be an instant gratification type of thing, and you shouldn't expect it to be. Either you studied hard, you did your best, and you still failed. Well, you can learn from that experience and do better the next time. Or maybe you didn't prepare as much as you should have. Maybe you kind of phoned it in, and you can learn from that experience and do better the next time. Either way, be kind to yourself. You'll do better the next time.
And I think going alongside this being kind to yourself is just adjusting your expectations, meaning don't have any. Really, at the end of the day, like, I'm taking my test tomorrow, I don't have any expectations. Like, that's where we want to get to, rather than like, I hope I pass, I expect to pass, I studied so hard, all of that stuff. If we can adjust our expectations or have none, that goes a long way in helping us be kind to ourselves and taking some of that pressure off. So be kind to yourself. Number 1, great one. Start there. Give yourself a little self-love. And part of that is also take a step back and realize how far you've come. I mean, you've been through the hardest part of architecture school or AXP experience or years of work experience. I mean, to get where you are now, this is just kind of that finish line. You've done all the really hardest stuff is behind you. Okay, what's number 2?
Number 2 is get outside your comfort zone. And more specifically, know that getting outside of your comfort zone is part of passing. In other words, I guarantee you there's going to be things on the test you've never seen before. Topics you've never heard of before, things you didn't study before, words you've never even knew existed before. That's okay. So much of this test is not about knowing everything. You're not going to know everything. You're not expected to know everything. So much of this test is how you deal with not knowing everything. Remember, you're ultimately, at the end of the day, being tested on whether you're a professional. A professional doesn't know everything. A professional would be the first to admit to say, I don't know, but I can go figure it out. So that's the mindset you want. So getting outside of your comfort zone is the beginning of that journey and helps you boost your confidence. Alongside
of the getting outside your comfort zone, much like expectations and be kind to yourself, this one just popped into my head. It's your ego. Getting your kind of ego in check, because if you have a pretty big ego, the ego will not let you get out of your comfort zone, especially if you've been in a job for a while or you've been a project manager for years. The ego makes it very hard for you to get outside your comfort zone. So how do we temper the ego in that one, Eric?
A lot of people come in and say, I don't understand. I'm an expert in code issues, or I'm an expert in detailing and I just failed the code section, or I just failed the building assembly section on the test. What's going on? I'm an expert in this. Really, that's your pride and your ego saying, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. Getting outside of your comfort zone is part of this idea of, you know what? You might be an expert in codes for your particular project type that you do over and over again, but it didn't prepare you for the test. It was an expensive lesson, but it was a lesson nonetheless. You'll do better next time. And really, again, if you realize that you're not expected to be an expert in everything, there's going to be things in the test you don't know. You set that as your new expectation. I think you'll find a much easier go of it.
So for getting outside your comfort zone, kind of said another way, is get comfortable being uncomfortable. How about that?
Yeah.
All right. Number 3 is make a list of your positive qualities. Now, this sounds pretty frou-frou to me, right? Right off the, this is like kumbaya stuff. But tell me more about this. Make a list of my positive qualities and why I might want to do that, and why it's not kumbaya.
Well, I should have warned everybody that these things get weirder and weirder as we go down the list. So by the time we get to number 9, it's going to be really hippy dippy. But
drinking the Kool-Aid at that point.
This is something that I've done in my life when I've hit my lowest points. It was 1997. I moved out to San Francisco for a job at a firm that I thought was doing great work. Immediately, I discovered they don't really do great work. They had one good project, and that was it. I was really bummed out, and after 6 months, I couldn't take it anymore, and I quit. And my girlfriend at the time said, well, we're broke, so what are you going to do? And I took a blank sheet of paper because I didn't know what else to do. I took a blank sheet of paper and I wrote down all the skills that I had that I thought might be valuable to people. I put like marker renderings, watercolor renderings. This is 1997. There was no 3D modeling really back then. So it was, model making, working drawings, I was anything I could think of. Well, I suddenly felt better. I suddenly had this piece of paper of, oh man, I'm not as much of a loser as I thought. Look at all these things I can do. And it also then prepared me to go out and find new work, because I went to other firms and I said, hey, here's what I can do for you. I had a list ready to go of things that I could do that add value to you, that you should hire me right now. And immediately got 5 firms interested in me to hire me for part-time gigs. So that was how I launched my business, really, was this idea of I wasn't going to get another job. And it started with just a blank sheet of paper and writing down kind of like what my positive qualities were, what my good skills were.
I love
I encourage you to do it.
Yeah, I love these actually. And in all seriousness, especially, mental health is a very, big issue today, and it's much more in the forefront. And as sort of simple as, make a list of your positive qualities. But I think, to your point, Eric, like this is real work. And this is things that can really help us, especially if we're trying to get our confidence back. Because most of us who've come this far, we're not spring chickens. Like, we have a lot of qualities as a person, but also qualities as a soon-to-be licensed architect. And sometimes we just need to be reminded of those, just like you did, Eric, with putting your list together after you suffered this kind of job sort of not being what you thought it was, and hitting a bit of a low point after that. So yeah, certainly make a list of your positive qualities, and the reminder of God, I am good. Let's do that. So number 3, make a list of your positive qualities. Definitely do that, and you are that much closer to getting your confidence back, for sure. Okay, number 4. And yes, I guess these are getting weirder, but at the same, but in all seriousness, these are very real. We kid because that's kind of what we like to do, and I think both Eric and I like to have a sense of humor about life, because you have to. So these are going to get weirder, but I do like this one, though. I will say, practice self-assured body language. What exactly does that mean?
This is your strut. how you hold your body, how you hold your physicality. It is so much a part of our mood and our personality. This is not me. This is not my opinion, by the way. This has been scientifically proven, right? If you're depressed, get outside, get moving, get some exercise, go for a walk, go for a bike ride, right? Force yourself out, changing your posture, standing up straight, having a different walk, right? Think about it. Think about the times that you felt really good. A cute person winked at you at the grocery store, or you just got a promotion at work, or someone said great job on something. Think about how you carried yourself immediately after that. You were like, yeah, man, I'm like, yeah, this is great. And you were strutting around, you know, like a happy rooster, essentially, right? Well, you can reverse that. You can force yourself to strut even when you don't necessarily feel like you're worthy of strutting. Change your body language, you know, back straight, shoulders, you know, shoulders back, head upright, right? As opposed to being slumped down and, you know, and change your posture, and it has an effect on your mood and on the endorphins and the serotonin in your brain. And so having self-assured body language will immediately, you'll feel a change. And what's even more important is people will see a change, right? You'll walk down the street. I had a friend a long time ago. She was so smart, and she said, I can't get anybody to, no one asked me out. She was basically complaining she wasn't getting enough attention from people. And she I don't know where she got this idea, but she decided that she was going to start smiling more. She had beautiful teeth anyway. People always commented how beautifully white her teeth were. So she started smiling more and immediately had a different reaction. Suddenly she was getting hit on everywhere she went. People were noticing her. They were like having engaging conversations with her. Her entire life changed simply because she started smiling more. Now, granted, she had a good smile, but I think most people do. And just that simple act of having this kind of like positive body language and this body image and irradiating from the in out and smiling more changed the trajectory of her life. She got a boyfriend after that. Everything changed. And I think about that a lot. And so, yeah, try it.
Well, it's very infectious, right? And most of us probably know somebody in our office who, you know, is very charismatic. And they're not charismatic and angry. They're charismatic and happy. That's part of the charisma. That's part of why people are drawn to them. Funny enough, you say strut, I say swagger. Right, that's what we got. Yeah. We got swagger, like, you know, like Josh Brolin or Tommy Lee Jones. You know, some Texas guy with like swagger, just walking around with confidence and not an overly inflated ego, right? Like a healthy ego, but yeah, just being confident, not arrogant. You know, being confident. So I like that one for sure. Number 5. This is very important for a lot of reasons. I think most of us could probably relate. So number 5 is realize you're not alone. And then how do we do that, Eric?
Well, you're not alone. First of all, none of you are, even though I know at times it can feel that way. But I'll give you several examples. First example is you've got an idea at work for something that you want to do, either on a project or with the firm or whatever. You're not alone. You've got managers, you've got bosses, you've got mentors, you've got colleagues in the firm, you've got friends, and you can start to essentially reach out and say, hey, I've got an idea for something. That's a very positive way of realizing you're not alone. The other extreme of that is you're feeling despair, you're feeling depression, you don't know what to do, you're intimidated by something, you're fearful of something. You're also not alone. I just had a call with a colleague. She was telling me about, she just got a new job. She hasn't even started it yet. She got a new job and it sounds amazing. And I'm like, whoa, that's like she's running all this crazy stuff. And I said, she said, I'm between you and me, I'm really freaked out. I'm really scared. She got very vulnerable very quickly because we're friends. And my first advice I gave to her was, look, you know, I'm a sustainability person. One of my favorite things I have is I have this group of 60 other sustainability directors at other large firms, and we all get together once a month, and it is my support system. I think nothing of picking up the phone and calling them and saying, hey, I'm struggling with this, I need advice. They think nothing of picking up the phone, and they do call me to say, hey, I'm struggling with this and I need advice. It's a work support system, and I find it invaluable to have that group of people. And we all become very close friends, of course, which is great too. But just knowing that I have that kind of like backup, people that I can turn to and say, I'm, you've dealt with this, I'm dealing with it right now. Tell me how you deal with it. We find this in our coaching group, right? The group coaching, our group coaching isn't that we force you to talk to a bunch of strangers. Our group coaching is really that you're studying for the test and you're on the journey and you're on it with other people that are in the same situation as you. That's really what our group coaching is. So we're not forcing introverts to be extroverts. What we're doing is we're showing you're not alone. So that's the whole embodiment, I think, of our mindset coaching, is that you're not alone. And changing your mindset doesn't have to be something that it's because you're flawed or broken. Changing your mindset is because everybody else is making the same mistake too, and this is what you need in order to pass the test.
And of the 9 on here, I'm looking at the list. This is certainly probably the realizing you're not alone, the one that probably takes the most work, because there's not a switch that you can turn off and on here, especially if we're feeling alone or in somewhat kind of despair. I will say, looking at the previous 4 we just talked to, be kind to yourself, get outside of your comfort zone, make a list of your positive qualities, and practice self-assured body language. Those will go a long way in helping you feel not alone. What's interesting about when we started our Platinum coaching group a few years ago, we started these Monday roundtable calls, which are calls that I do every Monday, and they're not recorded, and they're kind of like an open office forum where we get to know each other a little more. And one of the first few weeks, I realized, wow, everybody has their own journey, and most people in our coaching program have been in and out of this process for years. Some since 2006, some before that, 2010, whatever it might be, partly because it is a lonely process, right? So it's in and out. I mean, it took me 7 years. It was a very lonely process for me. But also realizing everybody is in that sort of same boat of going in and out of it for whatever reason, right? And then, of course, there are those of you who you get your 3 years experience and you're right on it, right? So yeah, that is number 5, realizing you're not alone. Again, probably the most difficult one to deal with, but taking steps to make yourself realize that you're not alone, I think is the first step in that. And we do a lot of podcasts about different topics. So if you haven't checked those out, you can check those out as to finding a way to be connected to this process, right? To people, to this process, all of that can help you get out of your funk and on your way to gaining the confidence back, which is what this one's all about. Okay. The 6th one is set goals for yourself. And I know, Eric, you're a big goal setter. So tell me about this one or how we go about doing this one.
Yeah, maybe we preface it by saying set realistic goals for yourself. It's unrealistic to say, I'm going to study 4 hours a day. No, you're not. And if you did, you shouldn't feel you need to, first of all. This is a test designed for working professionals, right? No one's taking off 6 months and going to a cabin in Vermont and studying. And if you did, it wouldn't be very helpful anyway. You're working full time. You're fitting studying while you can. Hopefully you're prioritizing it. And as we tell people in the coaching program, I'd much rather see you be consistent than wait for the perfect time to study. In other words, I'd much rather see you study for 20 minutes a day as opposed to waiting until you can get the full hour in, right? So setting realistic goals for yourself is great. And the goals can be as simple as I'm gonna set aside a block of time every day consistently that I'm gonna study Monday through Thursday. I'll take Friday night off. I'll study more on the weekends. Ideally do it in the morning so I can enjoy the rest of my day without guilt. Like, you can set study goals for yourself for the ARE. And then if you can do that, you can also set goals for your career. I want to start writing articles, or I want to start speaking at conferences, or I want to work on bigger projects, or I want to change the type of projects I work on. You can really dream big and establish goals. And then for every goal, you turn those into a series of steps, which hopefully become a series of habits. So let's do kind of a very general goal. I want to run a marathon is a vague goal. So instead you would turn that into, I want to run the 2024 marathon in March. Okay, so now you've started to make the goal very specific. And what am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to start running every week. Well, when? I'm going to start running after work between 5 and 7 every week. Okay, now it's much more specific, and you've turned it now into a habit, and you know you're going to be doing it on these days. And then how are you going to track your progress? Well, I'm going to be running longer and longer distances. Well, what are they? Well, first I'm going to run a mile. Then by December, I want to be able to run 5 miles. And then by February, I want to be able to run 20 miles or whatever, right? So suddenly now you're making this roadmap, this plan to do it. Well, you should do this for the ARE. And this is what our program forces you to do. We have you taking a test every 2 months. So if you're starting with January, you're going to study January and February and take the first test at the end of February. Then you're going to immediately pass or fail, move on to your second test, and you're going to study February and March and take it at the end of March. And then pass or fail, you're going to move on to your third test and start April, May, and take it at the end of May. So now you know when you're taking all 6 tests, you know for sure that now that it's a habit, that you're going to take all 6 tests within a year. You're going to fit in retakes as needed. It's a plan. That's a perfect goal for the ARE. It's the one that we ascribe to everybody, and it works. So setting goals for yourself will help you build your confidence. You know what you need to do. I mean, one of everybody's favorite things in our study program is the study plan. And all it is, it's just a PDF. It's a dated calendar, and it shows you what to study every single day. It's the dumbest thing ever, I think. But it's everybody's favorite part of the plan because they know what they need to study on Thursday, right? And so it gives them the confidence to not wonder, well, what do I need to do? That study plan is really about confidence, more so than anything else. Obviously they have the whole study guide. They should know what to study. Just read the next chapter. But that study plan gives them the confidence to do it. So setting goals for yourself is part of that confidence.
Let me back up here for a second in terms of the topic of this episode and 9 tips to get your confidence back. So I hear everything you're saying and it sounds great, but I'm in a funk, right? I'm in a funk and I'm looking to kind of get my confidence back. And a lot of those goals, they sound great and I don't even know if they're overwhelming. They just don't feel reachable at the moment. Okay. And this I'm setting up the next one, which is take it one day at a time. So how do I get back into it? And I'm basically leading it to just focusing on one exam and what can I do in the next 2 months to do that. So really just a short-term goal to kind of help get my confidence back. What do you say about that, Eric? And then weaving in the next one, taking it one day at a time.
I have 2 things to say about that. The first one is a quote from Teddy Roosevelt, who was quite an iconoclastic guy, right? A character in history and president. He has a great quote, and he says, "Believe you can, and you're halfway there." That's Teddy Roosevelt. And for a lot of people, they deep down don't believe they can pass these tests. But I'm telling you, if NCARB says you're qualified, if your state board gives you an authorization to test, if you're cleared to take the test, you're qualified. That's it. You already went through all the hurdles and systems to get there. You finished AXP, you did the whole deal, you're qualified, and you should never ever doubt that. And so all of you have the ability to pass, but not all of you believe you have the ability to pass. So it really first starts with believe you can, and you're halfway there. The second thing is if you want a simple action, go on our website, architectexamprep.com, and go schedule a free 15-minute coaching call. And I'll make you feel better about this whole process in 15 minutes. Dumb, easy thing to do. That's the best I can offer you, right? Because I don't know you and you don't know me, right? So just go on the website, schedule the call, and I've done thousands upon thousands of these calls now because we've been doing them for years. And I can give you something in those 15 minutes that'll boost your confidence and get you excited about taking these tests.
That's a great idea. And I also think whenever you're listening to this episode, 8 weeks from now, take an exam. Whether it's PCM, PJM, whatever it is, just listen to this episode. Be like, okay, in 6 to 8 weeks, I'm going to take PCM. And then you make it happen. Okay, I'll study 30 minutes a day and I will take PCM. Like, that's a very short-term goal. And don't worry about all the other stuff after that. Just worry about one division. And then, yeah, take Eric's offer up to schedule a free call to himself. And I think once all the ones we've talked about so far, there's 7 of them. They all kind of, they're all related, and I think they all kind of help build on each other. And when we start doing those, then number 8, talk to yourself positively, kind of comes sort of by default, but obviously we have to be intentional about it. So tell me about that one, Eric. Talk to yourself positively.
Our own words, our own inner voice, our own insecurities can often be our worst enemy. Inside your head, rattling around in your head, there is a very judgy, dare I say, bitchy, grumpy, negative part, and we all have it in your head. And the other part is this wise, calm, chill, supportive dude. And we each have them in our head. It depends on which one you want to listen to, really. And so it's very easy to talk to yourself negatively. God, I can't believe how stupid you are. Why didn't you study? You're so lazy. Why would you do that to yourself? You wasted all this money and all this time. Now you got to wait 60 days to take it again. You're such an idiot. How are you going to tell people at work? They're going to think you're an idiot. Like, it's very easy to fall into that and keeps going around your head. We have kind of a rule in the coaching program, which is you're allowed to feel bad for yourself for 24 hours after a fail. And then that's it. You got to stop because no good is going to come of it. We know as your coaches that you're going to spiral downward if you keep listening to yourself more than that. So you get 24 hours to feel sorry for yourself and you're done. And luckily, everybody in the group is in the same boat because you're not alone. And they're all like, you'll get it next time. You'll do better next time. You got this. Like, it's a very supportive, encouraging group. So it starts with you, though. You got to talk to yourself positively. You know what? I didn't do my best. I got to see all the questions, though, so that's good. And there's a bunch of topics on there I was kind of fuzzy on, so I'll prepare for those better. And I'm trying to see the bright side of it. So ignoring the judgy, grumpy jerk face in your brain and listening to the positive, wise, calm, cool person in your brain, that's what you need to do. And it starts with you.
And there's also, I think, an area of our voice that is, it's not a gray area. But we might think that we are. Hold on, we did do take one day at a time. Yeah, we wrapped it into the setting goals for yourself.
Oh, okay.
Now where the hell was I? Oh, yeah. There's another component of this talking to yourself positively that we might think not necessary, or it's frou-frou, like I'm great, I'm awesome. There's also a component of this that we may not even be aware that we do that is kind of negative talk, and it's not as blatant as I'm terrible, I'm never going to be licensed, but it's along the kind of lines of I just bombed the test. And that is negative, even though we don't see it as I'm a terrible test. Well, I'm a terrible test taker. That's another one. It's not as direct as I'm a failure. I'm never going to get this, but I bombed a test. I'm a terrible test taker. Those are also in that realm of negative thoughts, and we want to curb those as well to sort of talk more positively of those experiences. You didn't bomb it. We all know that. It doesn't happen. I know, Eric, you hear that a lot. You hear, I bombed the test and I'm a terrible test taker a lot. So How does somebody overcome that? Even though they might not think of themselves as negative, they might think of themselves as a very positive person, but they do use those terms. How do you, what do you have to say to those people?
Well, I hear it even more specifically because we hear, I bombed the case studies. It's like, how would you even know that? The score report doesn't break it into case studies and non-case study items. They're just in the modules. So, yeah, what's happening is you're looking for justification. You're looking for rationalization, a reason. Well, how could I not have passed? Surely something must be wrong. Oh, I'll blame it on I bombed. But what you're doing is you're telling yourself that you're a bomber. You're a person who bombs. And when we actually run their score report, and we have a tool that kind of you put in your score and it tells you they missed it by 4 questions or 5 questions. Like, they didn't bomb anything. They were just a little shy of passing. That's all. And it makes them feel better to see that. But that narrative that we have, it's very easy to beat yourself up, right? I bombed, and that's the story you tell your colleagues and your friends and your parents, and like, no, you didn't bomb. You just didn't do, you were just a little short of passing. That's okay. And you'll get it next time. And again, spin it into, well, these are the topics I know I need to brush up on. I know what my next test is. I know when I'm going to take this retake and fit it in after that. Like, it becomes a very positive experience, but it again starts with you talking to yourself in a much more positive, supportive way. The way to think about it is, I want you to talk to yourself the way you talk to your friends. Because if your friend said, I totally bombed PCM, you'd say, no, you didn't. I'm sure you did great. I want you to be as kind to yourself as you are to your friends. And it's not asking much, but I think that's a great place to start.
I like that analogy, talking to the friends, and those of you who have kids, it just made me think of this, Eric. It's like, if your kid comes to you, it's like, Dad, I bombed this. Like, you're not going to be like, you sure did. It's like, that's not what we do as parents. We build our kids up, so even if they did bomb it, you don't tell them that, you don't agree with them that they bombed it, but yeah, I like that. Okay. Last one, focus on what you can control, not on what you can't. So focus on what you can control, not on what you can't. And I think I'll let you take this one, Eric. Go for it.
So this really speaks to confidence, because it's very easy to say, I'm taking this test. It's a scary process. It's run by this weird organization, NCARB, that seems like a shadowy government agency, but they're not. And you start looking for trying to control everything that you can. So people obsess over their score reports. They obsess over the testing center. They obsess over all this other stuff that doesn't matter. And we often see this in the coaching program. People obsess over the study plan, and whenever we see people obsessing over the wrong things, what you should be obsessing over is being consistent, studying every day. If you can't do a full hour, then do 20 minutes. That's what you should focus on. But when you're focusing on things that you can't control, what you're really saying is, I'm out of control. Look, everybody, look how out of control I am, because I'm frantically trying to control things that are uncontrollable. You can't control the format of the test, or the time of the test, or the fact that it's in a testing center or done online, or what it costs. But these are the things that a lot of candidates obsess over. Instead, I want you to think about what you can control. You can control your behavior. You can control your actions. You can control, I'm going to schedule the test. I'm going to study as best I can. I'm going to, make it part of my routine. I'm going to get through all those study materials, and I'm going to go take the test. And if I don't pass, that's okay, right? I'm going to talk positively to myself about it. But that's what you can control. Your actions, your behavior, what you do, that's what you should focus on. And just knowing that you're doing everything you can. I got my study materials lined up. I joined the coaching program. I got my study plan. I know what to study on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? You know all that. Your confidence will start to increase.
And the focusing on what you can't control, that's all fear-based, right? That's just our mind, thinking of worst case scenarios about everything. And one way to just think about this material 5.0, which we know is great content. What we learn through this process, 99% of it we can actually apply in our professional careers. I remember years ago when the California supplemental exam, I think it was 2010, went from oral, where you have to go in and talk, basically answer questions to three architects in front of you. When it went to multiple choice format, they didn't change the test plan. There was like this year transition period where they let people know, and candidates were very worried about it. Or, hey, do I need to take this orally before it goes to multiple choice, or what do you think I should do? And the truth is, as I told them then, it doesn't matter. It really, whether you're getting tested in an oral format or multiple choice, it doesn't matter. You have to know the material, so it shouldn't matter how you're being tested on it. So it's still kind of the same now, right? Even though the ARE's never been oral, but it's still that same kind of thing. Like, you should know this material enough that however you get tested on it, and we are tested on it in job meetings, at the job office, whatever it might be, a job site. So it's kind of just, again, focusing on what you can control. Doesn't matter how you're tested on it. You can't control that. What I can control is my knowledge of the material, and whether I need to go in front of a computer or you're going to ask me, in person. Okay. I don't have control over that. So, all right. We've blown the micro podcast format out the window. I think we're at 35 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So let's wrap this one up. The 9 tips to get your confidence back, and this is a good one, and this is probably one to save, because if you ever get in a little funk, just go back and listen to this one, and you'll be reminded that everything's going to be okay, and follow our steps and stay connected to this process. On behalf of Eric Corey Freed, my name is David Doucette, and we'll see you on the next episode of the ARE podcast.
Thanks for listening to the ARE Podcast. Be sure to visit architectexamprep.com and check out our other podcast episodes, video tips, and the ARE blog. Remember to plan, practice, and pass.